You know, everybody always talks about old school hip hop, what was popping back in the day, and it's fun. Because you remember a time where things were great, so you come from an era where things were normal. There's nothing wrong with that, to be a little nostalgic and talk about great times. And we always tell everybody, if you don't like the video, you don't have to watch it. No one's tying you to a chair, putting toothpicks under your eyelids and making you watch videos. You do it because you want to. So now as we move along, we're starting to see a lot of copycats, imitators, and all of that stuff. But here we keep things current and we keep it moving. Now, sitting here talking about what's going on with Nas and G Rap situation. I remember when, who was this? Somebody else was bringing this up to me, and we were talking about it. I want to say we was in, where in the world were we? We was actually near St. Louis when this came up. And for some reason, Nas was coming about. Like, people was talking about the Illmatic CD. And it was getting a lot of street appeal. But commercially, it was about Biggie and Bad Boy coming around. Craig Mack, Wu-Tang was bigger than life, Method Man. So when 95 came rolling around, the only thing people were talking about was the AZ album. And he had Sugar Hill, which was more like successful than the Illmatic project. And Nas basically was, side by side with AZ doing that project. And people got to see Nas then. And then out of nowhere, G-Rap comes. And when G-Rap comes, he come hard. Well, It's a Shame. And when 456 come, it was his first album by himself, without DJ Polo. And it happens to be the last album of Cold Chillin'. But Nas is, prominent on the CD. Prominent. He's on the album cover with G-Rap. And G-Rap is the one that gave him got him involved and in contact with MC Search and got his career going. When he used to come up there and record, Raheem from the Furious Five, Melly Mel, all these guys were crowning Nas as like, man, this dude is for real. Like, this dude is no joke. So when you rapping amongst peers in the game and like, ooh, like, this dude is something else, he crazy. People knew greatness was for him. But a problem ensued after the fact. Nas blew up big with Fast Life. They did the video together, him and G-Rap. And commercially, the album was a success. Well, the song was a success, rather. And all this was doing was building an engine for Nas in his second album. So many people was awaiting Nas, and then here it is. Nas is coming. Is coming soon. That was the name of the title of the album, was Nas is Coming. But then it had just the promo, because they ended up changing it to It Was Written. Now, years go by. I would say not. Well, let's not say years go by. Let's say Nas' second album drops. Let's put it that way. It Was Written come out. Lauren's out. Nas becomes a player in the game, selling 2.5 million records, almost 3 million records. He's becoming one of the biggest rappers in New York commercially now. And people saying this is it. Nas is back. And he's taking over the game. There's no rapper greater than Nas. Now, this has got the attention of the world because Nas is finally, got that monkey off his back as far as him being a platinum selling artist. Could he sell records? He could rap, but he ain't gonna be able to sell no records. And Steve Stout, the commissioner, whatever he called himself, he's in there doing all the business moves, and he's finna help get everybody all this money. So when all of this process is going on, this whole business trip, G-Rap is going through a transition of his own. He's starting his own label, putting out his own music and everything else. And, it's time to everybody get together, drop some bars or whatever you have for G-Rap. And he was a little hurt that Nas didn't reach back and say, yo, I know you going through something, with your label and all that. You trying to get this off the ground. Like, I'll be over there and I'm finna drop this 16 on you. So Nas didn't do that. And mostly the people wanted to know what the problem was. Here's what the main problem was. That no one's really talked on or stomped on. And what people didn't get. Nas changed. Nas changed because he was going through a whole difficult, well, not difficult, but different type of advice when people were dealing with him. When he was with Stout, Stout was basically making the decisions based on business. And there's morals. And it's like, dog, you owe. And it's wrong. So, like, what are you doing? So, once that happened, it became, like, man, dog, you left G-Rap out there like that. He helped you get on. Like, what's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? So, when you got that kind of aura and people looking at you sideways, now you're in a bad situation because now the streets is looking at you like, yeah, he foul. Look at how he did G-Rap. He didn't even get back with G-Rap. And he kept blowing it off. Like, I'm busy, man. They got me doing so much. Man, I ain't had time to really focus. I had time to come over there and do this and do that. But he was like, dude, you was over here for 3 hours the other day just smoking. They just told me. Like, the streets know. It's like, dog, what you mean? You can't get around like that no more. You good over here. That's what G-Rap, like, what is this? This don't even make sense. So he was basically, hurt by the fact Nas didn't get on his second CD back in, like, 98. When it finally came out from being pushed out. He had all these songs done. He had spots reserved where Nas could get on the track. And Nas didn't show up to get on it. And all of this was because Steve Stout told Nas, look, I understand, but you gotta understand something. You going to a whole nother level. You don't need to associate yourself with these kind of rappers and he's from yesterday. I mean, it's cool to to know him and all of these things and to get back, but you don't want to put yourself out there on projects that's not finna move right now because you got a big deal coming up. You want to be out there with guys that's on the top plateau of rap. You want to have your name associated with them. That's how you're going to get the endorsements. That's how you're going to get the money. People are going to kick the money in when they start seeing that. They're not going to kick the money in when they see you do a song with Kool G Rap. Like, his day is over. His day and time is over. He doesn't know it. I've seen this happen. You're the future right now. You're what's going on. And down the road, you might sign him. Give him a record deal or something. But he's not even signed to the label. So, basically, you know, it was like, keep blowing G-Rap off. Don't answer his calls. Nas didn't get on the album, which hurt G. Out of anybody, he never saw Nas as that guy. And everybody was like, man, I was just with him. And he told AZ, like, look, you part of the firm. And he was like, man, you know, he been a little flaky with me from time to time, but you know how he is. You know, dude get like that, and then, you know, dealing with all this. So he excused all of it. Like, G-Rap excused everything. And then after Nas was back on top, you know, it was no Steve Stout. Nas is doing his own thing now. He dropped Stillmatic. Nas is ruling. Took over the game. And it was, he had just got away from Stout too. This is right after the Nostradamus album, and that was like their last go-round. Then they ended up falling out. Then Nas started going back towards the streets. You know, staying low-key, working with people, doing the stuff he was supposed to do that he didn't do when he was in his heyday. Helping the younger dudes out, get on. You know, he retouched base with G-Rap and was like, man, I'm going to get on the track with you. And he came over there and he did the verse for Holla Back. And everybody was like, oh, all right, that's dope. So the album is taking a while to come out, but he got Nas' verse on there on Holla Back, AZ on the track. There's a lot of people on this track. And they went through a Puerto Rican rapper on there named Tito. And I don't think they ever had a problem with the Puerto Rican kid. You know, it's one of the Spanish Prince. So, I don't think that was the major problem. They never discussed what this issue was. You know, and I tried to get Tito on it and everything else, but nobody really had any words, you know, or saying, you know, this is what the situation was that caused, you know, us to split up. But unreleased, you can hear it on YouTube now, Holla Back. And what you'll hear is that the Nas verse is on there. So, and Tito, I think he was probably rolling around with dudes from the Devastating 3 and all that. Because back then, rappers used to mostly rock out in groups. And then he came out like, dude, we gonna be the Fearless Four. You know, like superhero names. Because that's what dudes used to do, watch superhero movies. But I don't understand how, like what the problem was. Because Keith vouched for him, Special K, you know, Rakim, you know, like, this dude has rocked with people. So I couldn't see Tito being a reason why, you know, this would not work out. So I don't know. To this day, the only reason, and this is my own opinion, Nas pulled his verse off of that song. Some people said, oh, it had something to do with money. I'm going to say it had a lot to do with Steve Stout coming back into the picture. Nas went back to Steve Stout, and all of a sudden, his lyrics is taking off. Straight up and down. And then Tito's lyrics is added to the song. So when Nas recorded the song, Tito was not on the track. Or he had no knowledge of that this Tito guy was going to be on the track. That I do know. Tito was added on there. And once they added Tito on there, all I know is Nas took his verse off of the song. That's what we know is factual. He didn't give credentials for them to release it. Nas has done this plenty of times before. But for somehow they're on the internet already leaked out. The ones with Nas verse. But he's not on the G-Rap's third album. Now G-Rap, when they ever talk about Nas, he always talks about him in high regard. Never said nothing bad about Nas. Nas definitely can't say nothing bad about G-Rap. And it is what it is. But Tito and G-Rap, they start hanging out when they had the Red Coast production thing. And they did like 4 or 5 songs together. So that's why I'm like, if your man vouch for somebody, that's what I'm saying. If that's really your man's like that, this the guy that put you on, how